It's like, oh, now you don't have the franchise quarterback, and now you're out of here instead of trying to bring in a new guy and develop one, which he never
Yeah.
did, obviously.
Well, so it's just funny, and we can get to that question in a second. We did talk about all like the quarterback kind of coats on the wall for Sean. One that we
Yeah,
didn't mention, which should be mentioned as it pertains to Sean, is Tony Romo.
just because while he was there in Dallas before coming to New
Yeah,
Orleans,
yeah. Like he
I
was
guess
Tony Romo's
that's
coach.
fair.
Like Sean wanted Tony Romo to be his quarterback on the Saints, but the Cowboys wouldn't trade him. So, like, in fairness to Sean, as I go through his list of Garrett Graysons and Ian Books and Luke McCowns and whatever, it is only fair to include Tony Romo in that list. And someone on YouTube pointed that out. So I think it is fair. Like, we should mention, like, he did mold Tony Romo, and he was a very, very good quarterback for a long time. So I'll give him credit there.
Well deserved. I see on that one, but man, he's got a bunch of misses after that.
Yeah, that's the only one that I'm going to add. I'm not adding anybody else. I'll give him Drew Henson, right? Like, no. The Keeping It Real Who Dat Sports podcast. Has anyone thought about this? Maybe Sean Payton is a very bad interviewer. Maybe he is turning teams off in the process. It's a fair question.
I don't buy it.
Sean hasn't had to interview for a job in a long time. Maybe he doesn't do it well. Like, that's a reasonable question. I don't think that's out of the equation here, because not getting a second interview places would indicate that they are not falling in love with you as a coaching candidate. And I mean, I'm not saying like he's like going in there and like, tearing all the posters off the walls and, putting his feet up on the desk. But I'm like, he had basically the run of the show in New Orleans, and that might not, like, the way he wants to go about his job might not match what these teams are looking for in a head coach. And whether they're right or not, right? Like, these teams aren't exactly this paragon of success either. They all fired their coach, so they don't necessarily know what they're talking about in that respect. But, I do think that it's a fair question to ask.
To me, I can't imagine Sean being a bad interviewer just because his smarts, his know-how of the game, and just his overall attitude is going to come through. And he's one of those dudes that people want to be around and has that quote unquote, I guess you would say, charm about him that I think he's able to win over pretty much the room all the time.
Then where's the job offers? That's all I have to say.
I think it's the big compensation, because you have to give up so much of an allotment of draft picks and making him possibly the highest paid head coach in the NFL. It's like a double whammy back to back. The Denver situation really, when you think about it more and more, after what they had to give up to get Russell, and now you're going to have to give up another boatload to get Sean, it seems like you're crippling the organization too much than helping it.
Possible. Murtis has a more conspiratorial take, which is Murtis Lockett here says maybe Payton is tanking his interviews on purpose. Kind of like when they interviewed coaches last year and they promoted Dennis Allen.
How?
I don't know about that. I don't think he's tanking interviews. If he's tanking interviews, like I said, I don't know. Maybe he is tanking interviews, but I don't think he's intentionally tanking interviews if he's tanking interviews.